This is a Librivox recording. It has been edited, compiled, and distributed by Audible Anarchist.
Section 52 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Recording by Chuck Williamson. Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. Part 2, Chapter 45, The Bloom of the Barren Staff. 1. It is September the 19th. The cell house is silent and gray in the afternoon dusk. In the yard, the rain walks with heavy strides, hastening whither the shadows have gone. I stand at the door in reverie. In the somber light, I see myself led through the gate yonder. It was 10 years ago this day. The walls towered menacingly in the dark. The iron gripped my heart, and I was lost in despair. I should not have believed then that I could survive the long years of misery and pain. But the nimble feet of the rain patter hopefully, its tears dissipate the clouds and bring light, and soon I shall step into the sunshine and come forth grown and matured, as the world must have grown in the struggle of suffering. "Fresh fish," a rangeman announces, pointing to the long line of striped men, trudging dejectedly across the yard and stumbling against one another in the unaccustomed lockstep. The door opens, and Alec Cullen, the lifetimer, motions to me. He walks with measured, even step along the hall. Rangeman Cause and Harry, my young assistant, stealthily crowd with him into my cell. The air of mystery about them arouses my apprehension. "What's the matter, boys?" I ask. They hesitate and glance at each other, smiling diffidently. "You speak, Cullen," Harry whispers. The lifetimer carefully unwraps a little package, and I become aware of the sweet scent of flowers perfuming the cell. The old prisoner stammers in confusion as he presents me with a rose, big and red. "We swiped it in the greenhouse," he says. "For you, Alec," Harry adds. "For your 10th anniversary," corrects Cause. "Good luck to you, Alec." Mutely, they grip my hand and steal out of the cell. In solitude, I muse over the touching remembrance. These men, they are the shame society hides within the gray walls. These and others like them. Daily they come to be buried alive in this cell. All through the long years they have been coming, and the end is not yet. Robbed of joy in life, their being is discounted in the economy of existence. And all the while the world has been advancing, it is said. Science and philosophy, art and letters have made great strides. But wherein is the improvement that augments misery and crowds the prisons? The discovery of the X-ray will further scientific research, I am told. But where is the X-ray of social insight that will discover in human understanding and mutual aid the elements of true progress? Deceptive is the advance that involves the ruthless sacrifice of peace and health and life. Superficial and unstable the civilization that rests upon the treacherous sands of strife and warfare. The progress of science and industry, far from promoting man's happiness and social harmony, merely accentuates discontent and sharpens the contrasts. The knowledge gained at so much cost of suffering and sacrifice bears bitter fruit, for lack of wisdom to apply the lessons learned. There are no limits to the achievements of man, were not humanity divided against itself, exhausting its best energies in sanguinary conflict, suicidal and unnecessary. And these, the thousands stepmothered by cruel stupidity, are the victims castigated by society for her own folly and sins. There is young Harry, a child of the slums. He has never known the touch of a loving hand. Motherless, his father a drunkard, the heavy arm of the law was laid upon him at the age of 10. From reform school to reformatory, the social orphan has been driven about. "You know, Alec," he says, "I never had no real square meal, to feel full, you know, 'cept once, on Christmas and a ref." At the age of 19, he has not seen a day of liberty since early childhood. 3 years ago, he was transferred to the penitentiary, under a sentence of 16 years for an attempted escape from the Morganza Reform School, which resulted in the death of a keeper. The latter was foreman in the tailor shop, in which Harry was employed together with a number of other youths. The officer had induced Harry to do overwork above the regular task, for which he rewarded the boy with an occasional dainty of buttered bread or a piece of corn cake. By degrees, Harry's voluntary effort became part of his routine work, and the reward and delicacies came more rarely. But when they entirely ceased, the boy rebelled, refusing to exert himself above the required task. He was reported, but the superintendent censured the keeper for the unauthorized increase of work. Harry was elated, but presently began systematic persecution that made the boy's life daily more unbearable. In innumerable ways, the hostile guards sought to revenge his defeat upon the lad, till at last, driven in desperation, Harry resolved upon escape. With several other inmates, the 14-year-old boy planned to flee to the Rocky Mountains, there to hunt the wild Indians and live the independent and carefree life of Jesse James. "You know, Alec," Harry confides to me reminiscently, "you could have made it easy. There was 11 of us, but the kids was all sore on the foreman. He abused and beat us, and some of the boys wouldn't go, 'cept we knocked a screw out first. It was me pal, Nacky, that hit him foist, good and hard, and then I hit him lightly. But they all said in court that I hit him both times. Nacky's people had money, and he beat the case, but I got soaked 16 years. His eyes fill with tears, and he says plaintively, "I haven't been outside since I was a little kid, and now I'm sick and will die here, maybe." 2. Conversing in low tones, we sweep the range. I shorten my strokes to enable Harry to keep pace. Weakly, he drags the broom across the floor. His appearance is pitifully grotesque. The sickly features, pale with the color of the prison whitewash, resemble a little child's. But the eyes look oldish in the wrinkled sockets, his head painfully out of proportion with the puny, stunted body. Now and again he turns his gaze on me, and in his face there is a melancholy wonder, as if he is seeking something that has passed him by. Often I ponder, is there a crime more appealing and heinous than the one society has committed upon him, who is neither man nor youth and never was child? Crushed by the heel of brutality, the plant had never budded. Yet there is the making of a true man in him. His mentality is pathetically primitive, but he possesses character and courage, and latent virgin forces. His emotional frankness borders on the incredible. He is unmoral and unsocial, as a field daisy might be surrounded by giant trees, yet timidly tenacious of its own being. It distresses me to witness the yearning that comes into his eyes at the mention of the outside. Often in chance he reiterates he'd be so careful not to get into trouble. He would like to keep company with a nice girl, he confides, blushingly. He had never had one. But he fears his days are numbered. His lungs are getting very bad, and now that his father has died, he has no one to help him get a pardon. Perhaps father wouldn't have helped him either. He was always drunk and never cared for his children. He had no business to have any children, Harry comments passionately. And he can't expect any assistance from his sister. The poor girl barely makes a living in the factory. She's been working ever so long in the pickle works, Harry explains. That fella, the boss there, must be rich. It's a big factory, he adds naively. He ought to give her enough to marry on. But he figures he will die in prison. There is no one to aid him, and he has no friends. I never had no friend, he says wistfully. There ain't no real friends. The older boys in the refs always used me, and they used all the kids. But they was no friends. And everyone was against me in the court, and they put all the blame on me. Everybody was always against me, he repeats bitterly. Alone in the cell, I ponder over his words. Everyone was always against me, I hear the boy say. I wake at night with the quivering cry in the darkness. Everybody against me, motherless in childhood, reared in the fumes of brutal inebriation, cast into the slums to be crushed under the wheels of law's juggernaut, was the fate of this social orphan. Is this the fruit of progress? This the spirit of our Christian civilization? In the hours of solitude, the scheme of existence unfolds in kaleidoscope before me. In variegated design and divergent angle, it presents an endless panorama of stunted minds and tortured bodies, of universal misery and wretchedness in the elemental aspect of the boy's desolate life. And I beheld all the suffering and agony resolve themselves in the dominance of the established, in tradition and custom that heavily encrust humanity, weighing down the already fettered soul till its wings break and it beats helplessly against the artificial barriers. The blanched face of misery is silhouetted against the night. The silence sobs with the piteous cry of the crushed boy. And I hear the cry, and it fills my whole being with the sense of terrible wrong and injustice, with the shame of my kind, that sheds crocodile tears while it swallows its helpless prey. The submerged moan in the dark. I will echo their agony to the ears of the world. I have suffered with them. I have looked into the heart of pain, and with its voice and anguish I will speak to humanity, to wake it from sloth and apathy and lend hope to despair. The months speed in preparation for the great work. I must equip myself for the mission, for the combat with the world that struggles so desperately to defend its chains. The day of my resurrection is approaching, and I will devote my new life to the service of my fellow sufferers. The world shall hear the tortured. It shall behold the shame it has buried within these walls, yet not eliminated. The ghosts of its crimes shall rise and harrow its ears, till the social conscience is roused to the cry of its victims. And perhaps with eyes once opened, it will behold the misery and suffering in the world beyond, and man will pause in his strife and mad race to ask himself, wherefore? Whither? End of section 52.
This has been a Librivox recording. It was edited, compiled, and distributed by Audible Anarchist.